so I got involved in deciding what to read today because I'm also been a member of the American Civil Liberties Union, which I'm very much for free speech. And I wanted to read from the Qur'an. And then I realized I know no Arabic. And so I sent out an email, and your boss, I don't know what you, the imam, was going to come, but he has flown to New York today to do an interfaith service, and he sent his sub, Jamaluddin.
Yes.
And he's going to read in Arabic, and I'm going to read from the beginning of the book that we have here at the Cromaine Library. And it's about the author of the translation that this is an English translation of the Qur'an. On April 4th, 1872, Abdullah Yusuf Ali was born in a family of the Bohar community in Surat, India. His father, a merchant, was a very religious man who made sure that his son learned Qur'an before anything else. Upon the completion of young Abdullah's committing the entire Qur'an to memory, his father celebrated the occasion with a grand banquet, thus showing to his son the importance of his achievement and the importance of the Qur'an. In addition to studying contemporary knowledge at school, Abdullah continued to receive lessons in Arabic language and never ceased in his studies of the Qur'an. He was a superior student who excelled in academic achievement and won the much coveted Indian Civil Service Award, a prestigious honor resulting from the extremely competitive entrance examination for high positions in the Indian Civil Service, which wealthy families would aspire for their sons to receive. Abdullah was easily able to absorb English literature and was considered to be among the best of his fellow countrymen in writing English. Many of the most well-known scholarly magazines in India published his works and expressed their appreciation for his beautiful literary style. Later, Abdullah Yusuf left India for Europe and visited many European capitals and eventually resided in London for a considerable period of time. While in London, he was exposed to many translations of the Qur'an and continued to have a tremendous interest in it and its studies. He then began to closely study the Qur'an, giving special attention to its various interpretations, both old and new. And after studying what was written about the Qur'an in both European and Eastern languages, he returned to India and took up new residence in Lahore, where he became the dean of the Islamic College. He then began his monumental work of translating and commenting on the Qur'an, which after 3 full years of work was completed on his 65th birthday. Abdullah Yusuf Ali later died in London on December the 10th, 1953. So, and this is the preface to his first edition, which was completed in 1934. This book is the 10th printing, the 10th edition of his original, with updates. So here's, in his words, his preface to the first edition. I do not wish to write a long preface. I wish merely to explain the history of my project, the scope and plan of this work, and the objects I have held in view. In separate introductory notes, I have mentioned the useful books to which I have referred under the headings Commentaries on the Qur'an, Translations of the Qur'an, and Useful Works of Reference. I have similarly explained the system which I have followed in the transliteration of Arabic words and names, the abbreviations I have used, and the principal divisions of the Qur'an. It may be asked, is there any need for a fresh English translation? To those who ask this question, I commend a careful consideration of the facts which I have set out in my note on translations of the Qur'an. After they have read it, I would invite them to take any particular passage and compare it with any previous version they choose. If they find that I have helped them even the least bit further in understanding its meaning, or appreciation of its beauty, or catching something of the grandeur of the original, I would claim that my humble attempt is justified. It is the duty of every Muslim, man, woman, or child, to read the Quran and understand it according to his own capacity. If any one of us attains to some knowledge or understanding of it by study, contemplation, and the test of life, both outward and inward, it is his duty, according to his capacity, to instruct others and share with them the joy and peace which result from contact with the spiritual world. The Quran, indeed every religious book, has to be read not only with the tongue and voice and eyes, but with the best light that our intellect can supply, and even more with the truest and purest light which our hearts and conscience can give us. It is in this spirit that I would have my readers approach the Quran. It was between the ages of 4 and 5 that I first learned to read its Arabic words, to revel in its rhythm and music, and wonder at its meaning. I have a dim recollection of the Khatam ceremony which closed that stage. It was called completion. It really just began a spiritual awakening that has gone on ever since. My revered father taught me Arabic, but I must have imbibed from him into my innermost being something more. Something which told me that all the world's thoughts, all the world's most beautiful languages and literatures are but vehicles for that ineffable message which comes to the heart in rare moments of ecstasy. The soul of mysticism and ecstasy is in the Quran, as well as the plain guidance for the plain man which a world in a hurry affects to consider as sufficient. It is good to make this personal confession to an age in which it is the highest degree unfashionable to speak of religion or spiritual peace or consolation, an age in which words like these draw forth only derision, pity, or contempt. I have explored Western lands, Western manners, and the depths of Western thought and Western learning to an extent which has rarely fallen to the lot of an Eastern mortal. But I have never lost touch with my Eastern heritage. Through all my successes and failures, I have learned to rely more and more upon the one true thing in all life, the voice that speaks in a tongue above that of mortal men. For me, the embodiment of that voice has been in the noble words of the Arabic Quran, which I have tried to translate for myself and apply to my experience again and again. The service of the Quran has been the pride and the privilege of many Muslims. I felt that with such life experience as has fallen to my lot, my service to the Quran should be to present it in a fitting garb in English. That ambition I have cherished in my mind for more than 40 years. I have collected books and materials for it. I have visited places, undertaken journeys, taken notes, sought the society of men, and tried to explore their thoughts and hearts in order to equip myself for the task. Sometimes I have considered it too stupendous for me. The double task of understanding the original and reproducing its nobility, its beauty, its poetry, its grandeur, and its sweet, practical, reasonable application to everyday experience. Then I have blamed myself for lack of courage, the spiritual courage of men who dared all in the cause which was so dear to them.